All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mining Experience. For those of you who are listening to us for the first time, the Mining Experience is a live podcast that invites professionals from the mining industry to discuss new technologies, address challenges, and share work experiences. I'm Mohamed Zaki, your host for today, and I'm the marketing manager at Promine. Joining me today is my colleague, Umayma Latiris. Umayma, how are you doing today?
Hello, Mohamed. Thank you so much. I'm doing great. And hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Umayma Latiris, Promine's Canada account executive. And for today's episode, I will be your co-host.
Excellent. Hello, Uma, and welcome. So in our current technological era, the mining and geology industries are, without a doubt, in need for new, innovative, and powerful solutions to tackle the current challenges faced by many mines around the world. Almost everyone is in possession of a mobile phone, which opens doors to many opportunities in the mining sector to increase safety, productivity, and efficiency. Our guests will tell us about the different advantages of using mobile applications in mining and geology and how they can improve our processes and improve communication on site.
Thank you. So let's start by introducing our guests. They are having Eva Dirks, master's degrees in mine engineering from Germany. After moving to Canada, she worked for a few years as a QC specialist in the video game industry. She joined Promine nearly 5 years ago as a QA specialist and has since then become the VP of Technical Services.
Yes, and we also have Rodrigo Vega, bachelor's degree in mechatronics engineering from the Universidad Peruana de Ciencias Aplicadas. Rodrigo has more than 5 years of experience in the development of technological projects and applications. Eva and Rodrigo, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, us too, very much.
All right. Eva, let's first talk about technology in general. What are some examples that show the progress of technological advancements in the mining and geology as well?
Well, if we go for progress, it's always really, really fascinating to see for me how mines that used to be only, it has been a long while since we have like some plans. I saw some plans from the 19th century or things like that. Drawn out with we're going there, we hope for more there, this is a dead end, to being able to have, and that's just like the exploration phase where we have so much more technology to have the geophysical advantages, to have flyovers and those things, drone exploration, in order to get us a lot more data, a lot of more information before we even start mining. And then nowadays, when we go into the mines, with all of the also drones nowadays that go into the mines and have data points collected, the visualization and the representation of what we have specifically underground, which is my personal specialty, so I'm just thinking more in that direction, is amazing. And every single time we do something new, we get some more information, but also same in a surface mine with the monitoring systems that we have there that can visualize our change in the inclination in the slope stability that we have there. All of that is just data. The big problem then is to apply more technology to actually do something with the data, because the raw data, the human brain cannot compute cannot visualize anymore, cannot do anything with anymore.
Absolutely. And Eva, you've been in a mine before, right? Many times, like
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is it like? Yeah, and I guess when you go down there, it's a whole new world. Like you see all this equipment, this technology, and it's
equipment and technology that you see nowadays. Where it was first time I worked in a salt mine, I was impressed because that was just something, because there's so much space in a lot of them, so they can just put so much more equipment down there. And all of the automized equipment that nowadays you just give them a input from a computer and be like, yeah, I want to have those holes drilled there. I plant them up in my office where I have time to think and see. And underground, you just look at the ground a little bit and like, yeah, the planning still fits. And therefore you can just let the machine work, because you have already planned this and you don't need to weird calls underground.
Yeah.
There's always something, like you will still need a human to be like, yeah, no, this looks different than what we expected. The machine does not know this, but and again, I thought in salt mining first. Coal mining or ore mining is the same thing nowadays. You get a lot more optimization and tools that just help you do your job in a more efficient way to a certain degree, but also in a safer way. We're always going for mine safety here, so
absolutely.
Having all of this access, and once you're underground, if you don't know the mine well, you don't know where you are. You don't know where what you're looking at. It's dark. You just don't have. And I was always in mines where it was just like visiting a couple of days. So I was always hoping that the person brought me to the right side. I could not verify that I'm like in the right spot.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. With like you said, like automation is definitely one of the most used. Well, with automation, like it first of all eliminates all the tedious tasks that you would have someone do it instead. So not only that you save on cost, but like you said, it's with automation comes technology, and this is where the major progress is done. Yeah, so that's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. And Rodrigo, I have a question for you. Can you give us some examples of how we can implement custom mobile apps in the mining industry? Oh,
yes.
I think you're muted.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Well, we can implement apps, form apps, and also application with tools that the engineers need in the field. For form apps, there are many, like health and safety form. This eliminates the inefficiencies of paper inspections, collect data. There is also operations management applications. With this, you can manage operation and ensure high levels of efficiency across an organization. It enhances employee productivity, which in turn improves mining the financial part.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it when you say like form applications. It's just something where I have a checklist. If I even have that on my phone or whatever other tablet device, because I want to be able to see something. If I check off, I've seen this, I've seen that, I inspected that, this needs to be warned up and the next person gets the same tablet and is like, oh, there's my warning. Okay, let me make sure that I go to that space. Yeah, it works on paper, as you said, but it's really nice nowadays. You see it on paper, but if you get like the extra warning from the app that says like, hey, it's nearly the end of your workday. You haven't passed by inspection site A. You should go there.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because we like everyone has a mobile phone, right? It's become such a normal thing that to think of having technology on this piece of device is something important, then it should be implemented in that way. Like Rodrigo said, like for health and safety, for efficiency, for independency, a lot of the things can be automated and also developed on a mobile phone that everyone has now. So yes.
Even with those warnings, I mean, I have a plant, an app that tells me when to water my plants, and then to take an update picture to be like, hey, is the plant health good? Yes, it works for my plants perfectly, but it also works for any site underground. Hey, take a picture of what this looked like. Why were you concerned? And then have it directly synchronized with a database above ground in order to have the next person know that this is happening as soon as you're above ground and have the connection. everyone can have access to this data. And a good underground, sometimes it's hard to take a good picture because you just have not enough light. It's when you know, you take a couple of colleagues, point the lights in all of the same directions and hope for the best. But the idea is the same, and it's not used enough yet, I think, underground or in mines in general.
Absolutely.
Well, with that being said, Eva, now that you've been down the mine many times, could you like elaborate more about why we should use mobile apps down the mine and how this like solve every challenge related to our daily operations, either communication or any other thing in the mine?
You're putting big words out there with every challenge. Maybe not everyone. People still have to talk to each other, and that is sometimes also one of the biggest challenges in every company, right? But we can definitely support communication with these kind of apps, with alerts, with any of these automatizations that we can put in there, because you take your data on a phone. You can verify underground not as easily as where you are, but you're like, if you have the map on your tablet and you say like, okay, I have this station and that station, and then with the distance I shall be here. You can do that on a paper map, but then you can not just tell your colleague, no, I was there. Here you can just mark it in a map, get it above ground, be like, here at this location with this picture, that concerned me, make a, you know, a marker around it. This concerned me because of something. So you can get information up quicker, which is just nice. And I know that a lot of people are like, no, but underground, you don't have a data network. I understand that. You not have a data network. I know that in some salt mines that I worked in, they had like at least around the hub, around the shaft, they had some data network because I put it down there, but it's still like from your way where you are, and you can still call in on your phones and whatever you're carrying, any kind of device if it's an emergency. But you will always do that if it's an emergency. The problems are the ones that are not yet emergencies oftentimes, because they just don't get communicated fast enough, or some of the communication gets lost. And that's where any kind of these apps can easily join in, I think.
And when you were talking about the interactive maps, that of course, even without a data network, that information can still be shared with everyone who has that app, right? At that mine. That
Sure. Yes. I'm just saying, like, you will not update it until you have any form of network in order to update the data. But obviously the same information can be distributed easily to other people, or like any other device that has the right app, in order to update the data for everyone.
Yes, and where compared to, you know, the traditional ways where you have to take that information on raw paper, digitize it on computer, well, upload first the memory stick into the computer, you know, copy that information and do all that work, then
I mean, a lot of people just work with paper in and of itself, right? So you also have to print it out. It gets muddy and whatever underground. You're like, good enough. You need the next map for the next time. And if you marked something on the old map, the information will be lost.
Correct.
That,
yes. Yeah.
Like, as always, people try to not lose the data. It's not a question. This is just a support for people to make their life easier in the end.
Yeah, and also speaking of many papers used then within the mine and then at the surface, maybe we're talking about also environmental friendly, that this app will help us stop using so many, well, cutting trees and stuff, but instead we're going to be more developed and with using just our phones, which we use in our daily life as well.
Yeah, and I mean, then those depend also on the mines and where you are, but you have dedicated tablets to the mine because you might not be allowed to take your personal one underground, or in a salt mine, you might not want to take your personal underground because it will get rusty. Or you need a specifically hardcore one to survive that environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have just different options to track data, and that's where like the development for the different apps can be really, really interesting.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. And let's move on a little bit to Promine services. So Rodrigo, what are some of the mobile apps that Promine can do?
Well, as mentioned before, the form type applications are the easiest one and takes less time than the apps that requires specific tools and some computation. Those apps require more time. So every app that needs forms, like I said before, like operation management as example, can be done by Promine. And also we're working on advanced tools for the mining industry also. So you can edit maps and work in the mine, and also edit, save your change and edit those maps on your computer. So
Yeah, and you will
Excellent. Yeah.
be able, like as I saw, like the specific tools that Rodrigo has been working on, the option to add structures where you see them underground. So just visualize better what you have. As Rodrigo said, those are more complicated because you just have different formats that you have to work with, right? Like every different program uses different file types. Luckily with Promine, we can get the DXF files. That is a very open format in which we can easily put this information to be then visualized in the main software. But just being able to handle it on a device underground, being like, okay, these are my structures, these are here, this is this. So you don't have to, again, take it in paper, go above ground, digitize it, and then distribute it to everyone. You just have, you skip a few steps.
Yes. And what about the level of security in those apps? Like, is there a, of course, you know, it's different when using a computer, but is using mobile apps means that you can achieve the same level of security when using a computer?
for security, there is no problem. The tablets already have, usually in mines, have their information protected. So every mine has its own security system. I think that it's really important to take data directly from the tablet, not also because avoiding to work with paper. It's also because you need some tools. As an engineer, you need some tools that if you work with the paper, you can't have those tools at hand. And there are also formulas and information that some engineers need offline when there is no connection. And all of those tools, all of those little helps improve the efficiency of any activity. So yes, I think everything that requires share information, computing, communication between teams, all of those applications are solved good with application, with working with tablet and yes.
Very good. Yeah, that sounds very reassuring. Very good. Yeah.
Well, just speaking of that we can visualize geological models in real time and maybe adding blocks, we can also predict the dilution. Is it some sort of reducing independency to an experienced engineer or person who knows the mine as well, because you've been there so long? Can we do that, like predict dilutions in as a sort of application we can develop?
Yes, I think that well, with all of this Industry 4.0, the digital transformation, the importance of acquiring data through a digital, through hardware, through software, it's important because all the small data that you may think it's irrelevant can be processed and give you insights about what could happen. For example, there is also the mantenimiento preventivo, preventive.
Allow. Yeah.
Yes, that through artificial intelligence can give you insights of when you need to make an operation with a machine so it can work correctly, no? According to the schedule or to the labor that's been put on that machine.
Yeah, it's with all of the new data that we're collecting, like that we're having digitized, we can feed different algorithms in order to work and train an algorithm for a specific mine to say, hey, in this mine, when we do this, this is always our outcome because we already have this data. It just needs to be treated correctly in order to then learn how we can change our dilution, how we can improve the dilution data that we're experiencing, because we have historical data that we can work with. And for all of these dilution AI situations, you might need to feed the program first in order to work specifically for your mine. And that is data, as you said, like an experienced mining engineer, process engineer of that specific mine will not need it. They will make as good a call as any program that has been trained with the same data that the engineer has been trained. But the program will obviously not get as easily lost as an engineer that's saying like, hey, I'm going to retire today. Hopefully not today.
It's just a matter of time.
With a little bit of
right?
warning. Yeah.
It's a matter of time, and it's like training someone new. You know, you need a little bit of time with data provided. It's almost like a feedback loop. Like
yeah, and so you can like as soon as you have like an artificial intelligence, you have to see it as a new colleague that you can give some data, will easily chunk just on the processing, and give you an output that most of the time will be very good. Also, and I will make a prediction that is not as good sometimes, but that's just because the data was not sufficient at that point.
I see.
Well, thank you for this amazing process. And well, speaking of processes, after developing an app, how do you, Eva, make sure that you develop an app based on the industry standards?
For all of these apps that are getting developed, for everything that we develop at Promine, we have specific testing standards, obviously. So every single part that gets worked on from any of our programmers that we have within the company, or in any kind of software company. This is not specific to us. Most people try to get a good quality assurance, and so we have the quality assurance part. We just put out the right presets. So you give out the right conditions under which the app can be developed. So the programmers already know they have to achieve this, they have to achieve this, they have to achieve that. And that is not like different higher levels, but just all of the points that they have to check for a least valuable product. So they have to have this, otherwise the industry will not accept it, obviously, because it has not at the factors it needs. And after that, the developers will always say like, yeah, it's working. They're confident. And then people try it out and be like, oh, look, if I give you all of the wrong input, the app crashes. Because the user never does what we expect. ever.
No, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, testing is a big part of it. Yeah.
So that's the quality control part where a lot of people are testing the app. They're trying to crash it. You always have, you go for the happy path. You go for the user actually knows how to use the app. Hopefully you developed it in a way that it's intuitive and you know exactly how to use it. That's a very important part for any kind of app development, for any kind of software development. Hopefully the user knows directly how to use it and will not do an error. Most likely, even if they do know how to use it, they do something's coming up in the mind, they look around, they click something else, or like, where was I? Probably here. And they skip a step and it crashes. And in all of those situations, obviously, you don't want it to crash. You want it to continue working and tell the user, hey, you forgot something.
Right.
So
right, yes.
all of these testing steps get in before it gets released to a client, to anyone that's an end user, in order to make sure that the experience that people have with it is good. Also, because if you're underground and you're having a problem, you cannot call support and be like, hey, it's not working. You will not have cell phone reception. So you really want the thing to not crash. That's the biggest part.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess
how
also.
much time, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just
No problem.
speaking about the process, how much time it takes you to do all that process, all the steps and the testing it?
Rodrigo, if you go for the development part.
Yes. Well, one of to answer a little of your last question, one of the first steps that we need to do is we agree with the customer the minimum features that need to be included in the first version of the application, and we also discuss the long-term application ideas for a possible expansion. Our team is in charge of the development of the application, from the design to the final delivery of the application. Now for the development time, the times can be varied. It is if it is a form filling application, it can be done in up to 3 months, considering a testing stage. However, if the application requires specialized tools, the development can take up to 6 months, and yes, up to 6 months. Always the apps go through another testing and quality control process. But yes.
Yeah, for the timeline, it's also always, as you said, the first part is agreeing what actually should be in the app. And that's also sometimes when we're working with a client, that can be a long process, because they say, we want this, and then we have to precise what that means for an app. To achieve this, we have to do this other 10 steps, otherwise you cannot get to your final wish. And if you forget something there, then the whole thing will topple down. So just saying, okay, we want this, and these are the steps to achieve it, and you also want those things, and those are the steps to achieve it. Do you want to have it with just steps 8 to 10, or do you want it only if it's once completely done with all of the steps? Is a part, but these negotiations can also take a few months, depending on the company, obviously, and their decision happiness, which I know from a lot of mining companies, it's very low. So it will just take a little bit of a while to, like, the engineer is very excited for it and wants it, and then you have to go to your higher up that will grant the money for the development, and just internal stage on the client side. But on our side, then, as Rick said, between like 3 and 6 months, a lot of things are possible. And we try to get the testing in as soon as possible. So as soon as something is in there where you're like, hey, this is stable. It doesn't have all features, but those features can be tested that are already in there, so that you get an immediate feedback loop of like, okay, in your first development you forgot about those kind of things. you go back, you add them in, and you will most likely not forget about the same kind of things in the next part of your development, so that you get a little bit of a loop there. And then you get, like, I at least always would like a quarter of the time that's used for development also on testing, in order to have enough time to try all of the things that you can think of with this new software.
Yes. And I guess, yeah, like you said, like user friendliness is something very, very important. And that comes with the usage of the app, because like you said, like you can do something that, because a software or a mobile application is always in maintenance mode. It's never really achieved the full functionality, because you want to match what the user wants. So that's a big part of it. Also, user friendliness should or is part of this process.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, any website where you come and something doesn't work the way you expected it to, you go to the next one. You're like, done. For the plant app that I mentioned earlier, I downloaded 3 different ones. I chose the one that was the easiest for me to use, because one had an issue. I was like, nope, don't want to. So I have different options. In this case, we're normally developing something specific for a customer, so they can tell us, hey, I liked your idea here, but how about this way? And you're like, oh, because sometimes you just don't think in the same way as the user because you were in a different environment. I cannot test it in a mine at home. I can go on a dark bridge and see if the conditions there work, but maybe the colors are not bright enough, or the things are difficult to distinguish. The button was too small because you actually have to wear gloves most of the time. Things like that can be forgotten sometimes, and then it comes back from the user, and then we are very happy to adjust it to what is actually needed. That is also something that in our negotiations are always part of it, that yes, you try it, you give us feedback, and we will still make adjustments to match your needs.
Right. That's great to hear. Very, very good. All right, just to let everyone know, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button. For the people watching us from Facebook, you can comment your question and we will get back to you. So Rodrigo, as a final question, how do you see the future of mining and geology based on the current development of technology, of software and mobile apps?
Well, I believe that digital transformation is happening right now rather than a vision of the future. This is why I consider that eventually all the activities that need to collect or share information, or the ones that need calculation and computing tools, all of those activities are going to be carried out through an application and possibly from a tablet, because it's the easiest way to share information, to input information. I think the industry of custom software for mining is going to be a growing one. Yes, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, I personally think it's going to be a very bright future. We live, like I said in the beginning, in a technological era, and this is the moment to shine. It's the moment where I think technology will really, and specifically because like of these new algorithms using artificial intelligence and other methods, it's one of the great things that will be in the future.
Yeah, that's really reassuring to know that we are going to a very developed world in this industry of mining, and especially that it's one of the most dangerous field in the world. So it will be so good if we have developed mines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we for sure want to have just the we want to remove a lot of the human error factor, right, in order to make things safer. It can still obviously happen, but it's just something we would like to remove. And with the kind of customized app that we have here, it's really, even if it's a small mine that needs something specific, it's very possible to just add a little tool, have it on a couple of tablets, people use them every day, and that will already bring that mine so much more forward compared to like having these. There's lots of really, really good mining tools out there, like really good softwares that have lots and lots of capability that also need a lot of training for someone to actually use it well. So if you have like a smaller individual app on a phone where people nowadays feel comfortable on, right? Or on a tablet, they know exactly how to handle this, the hardware itself. And hopefully the software was developed intuitively enough to go on with like, oh, okay, wait, on my gaming app, I did this. So oh, look, it's the same here. So that the calculations can be done right on field, or any kind of visualization can be done immediately for users to, or for even smaller mines to have a better experience, a better workflow in their mines.
Yeah, Eva, you made a really good point. You said that the hardware is already there. That's absolutely right. It's you know, we have the hardware, the programming languages. All what's left is to use that to actually help the mining and geology industries. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, I guess let me look for questions. We don't have anything here, and we're good. So Eva and Rodrigo, on behalf of Promine, we would like to thank you for your great insights and your great knowledge on this topic. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the invite. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. All right. I'll see you later then. Take care. Bye-bye.